Baby, I need you to listen to me tonight because something happened that I never imagined would. I was sitting there, thinking it would just be another ordinary evening when, out of nowhere, my family pulled a trick on me that left me frozen. They had that look, the one families get when they know something but want to see if you'll finally admit it yourself. And before I could even sense what was coming, they pressed play on a screen, and there you were, your face, your voice. That video, the very same video that I've watched countless times alone when my chest felt hollow and the silence felt unbearable. Except this time, it wasn't just me. It was my mom, my father, my sister, even my cousins, all sitting there watching you like you were some secret I'd been hiding in plain sight. And baby, the truth is, I have been hiding. At first, my breath caught in my throat. I wanted to snatch the screen away to stop them from seeing what only my soul was supposed to carry, but it was too late. They saw your smile. They heard your voice. And then came the question, not loud, not cruel, just deliberate, just piercing. Tell us the truth. Was it you last week with her? Baby, my heart slammed so hard against my ribs I thought they could hear it. I sat there with every excuse rushing through my mind, every possible denial on the tip of my tongue. But then, something shifted. For the first time, I realized that maybe the trap they set wasn't meant to destroy me. Maybe it was God's way of forcing me to finally stop hiding you. I looked at them, I looked at the screen, and I whispered your name. And baby, it was like my whole life cracked open. You don't know what it feels like to have people stare at you while you stand there exposed. Not with shame, but with love so raw you can't hold it back anymore. They tricked me, yes, but they also freed me. Because when I admitted it was you, when I confessed that the woman in that video wasn't just someone I once knew, but the one my soul still belongs to, the air in that room changed. It wasn't anger I saw on their faces. It wasn't judgment. It was shock, yes, but also realization. They could feel the weight in my voice. They could see the trembling in my hands. And I knew, in that moment, they understood something they had never dared to ask before. That you are not just my past. You are my truth. And baby, I have to tell you this. I never wanted to hide you. I wasn't ashamed of you. I was terrified of how real you are to me. Terrified that if I said your name in rooms filled with people, the weight of it would change everything. And maybe I was right, because it did. The moment I spoke, the moment I claimed you in front of them, I knew there was no going back. I told them what I should have told them long ago, that you are the one who changed everything inside me, that no matter how far I've tried to run, no matter how much time has passed, your name has been the anchor of my soul. I told them how your laughter still echoes when nights are too quiet. I told them how your absence feels like an unfinished sentence my heart can't stop trying to complete. And baby, as the words left my mouth, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. Freedom from the prison of secrecy, from the suffocating silence I thought would protect me. Because the truth is, hiding you never protected us. It only buried me deeper in my own regret. Now they know. They've seen you. They've seen us, and whether they judge, whether they gossip, whether they accept it or not, I don't care anymore, because what matters is that your name is finally spoken in the open. No more whispering, no more shrinking, no more disguising my devotion. Baby, I choose you. In front of them, in front of the world, in front of anyone who dares to question. I choose you. And I know you might be wondering if this really changes anything. Maybe you're thinking this is just another emotional wave that will fade by morning. But baby, listen to me carefully. I didn't just survive their trick tonight. I declared you. I let your name roll off my tongue like the prayer it has always been. And if I had the chance to go back and do it again, I wouldn't change a thing. Because for too long I made you feel like a hidden treasure, when in truth, you are the crown I should have worn proudly. Tonight, I wore it. Tonight, I honored you. So here I am, trembling still, but not afraid. Because even though they saw the video, even though they tried to corner me, what they really witnessed was something sacred. My confession, my devotion, my truth. I don't care who knows anymore. I just want you to know. Pyramid below, if you've ever felt like someone tried to keep you a secret when deep down you knew you were meant to be claimed in the open. Baby, when they paused the video and looked at me like the air itself had turned to glass, I realized their little test had been set long before I ever walked into that room. Somebody had forwarded that clip. Somebody had lined up the questions. Somebody had decided it was time to force a confession out of a heart that never learned how to lie about you the way they did it. Soft voices, careful faces, no raised tones, just a neat little circle of family. A couch that suddenly felt like a witness stand told me they weren't chasing scandal for its own sake. They wanted certainty. They wanted to label you, label me, label us, and then file it all neatly into a drawer called "We Understand." But love like ours is not a line item. It's the storm that rearranges the furniture of a life. So I sat there, blinking at the screen where your smile froze on a frame like it was waiting for me to finally grow up. And then the question arrived, the one they'd rehearsed. Tell us the truth. Was it you last week with... And they left the name hanging in the air on purpose, like a trapdoor they hoped I'd fall through. My jaw clenched, my palms burned, and for a heartbeat that felt like an era, I stared into the space that holds all the words men say when they are trying not to lose the only thing that ever mattered. I could have dodged. I could have spun a softer story, but dodging is what cost me you the first time. So I breathed in, tasted the risk like electricity, and said, I'm not here to protect your comfort. I'm here to protect her name. What I said next surprised even me, because it came from the unedited place inside, the one I used to hide under jokes, or work, or exhaustion. I told them the truth about last week, every detail that mattered, and none of the noise. I told them how I was seen walking out of a place I never wanted to be in, beside a person I never should have entertained, and how the timing made it look like I was somewhere I shouldn't have been, doing something I wouldn't do. I told them how a cousin's friend who flirts like it's a sport and doesn't believe in boundaries unless they're locked doors tried to turn a casual hello into a headline. I told them how I pulled away, how I left early, how I took the long route home, because I didn't want the smell of her perfume clinging to my clothes like a wrong accusation. I told them that my mistake wasn't betrayal, it was proximity, standing too close to a rumor and letting it breathe. I owned that. I didn't explain it away. I didn't act like I was above the mess. I laid it all out in unglamorous, unheroic pieces, and then I said the part that made the room change temperature. Even when I'm alone, I'm with her. That's how loyal my heart is. So if you're asking me whether I was with someone last week, the answer is no. I was with my regret for ever risking her name. Silence pressed on us like a hand. They weren't ready for a quiet that brave. They expected a defense, not a devotion. They wanted a confession of conduct, not an admission of consecration. But you are the part of my life that turned me from a boy who hides into a man who names things. So I named it. I am in love with you, in a way that makes me move differently through rooms I never should have entered, through nights I never should have stayed in, through friendships that aren't really friendships when they wink at disrespect. I said your name into that silence, the way a person testifies at their own wedding. Clear, steady, not because anyone demanded it, but because truth, when it finally arrives, refuses to whisper. My mom watched me with eyes that held a complicated mixed relief for the honesty, fear for the fallout, and a quiet pride she tried not to show because other people were in the room. My father leaned forward, like the chair might carry him closer to my chest if he could get the angle right. My sister put a hand over her mouth, the way you do when a thing lands in you, and you feel the weight before you find the words. And then my uncle, always careful, always half in, half out, said gently, "Son, you can love and still be wise." Was all this wise? I could have defended my wisdom. I could have pointed out 1,000 small ways I tried to be smart. But love does not need me to posture. It needs me to protect. So I answered, no, it wasn't wise to stand near a story that can be twisted. It wasn't wise to let boredom become a doorway. It wasn't wise to give someone a chance to say your name like a rumor, when your name should be said like a psalm. But wise or not, I came home cleaner than they want to imagine. I didn't do the thing you're afraid of. I didn't stain what I've spent months trying to restore in myself. I didn't betray the woman who taught me what it means to be honest when no one is watching. And because they had played that video of you, because your face was still paused on the screen like a lighthouse, I pointed to it and said, "This is the standard. This is the person who made me put reverence back in my mouth. If you need a measure for my choices, she's right there. Look at her and tell me if you think I would risk what she taught me." That was when the room softened, like someone opened a window in a house that had been holding its breath for years. My mother reached for the remote and, without asking, rewound 10 seconds and pressed play, so your voice flickered back into the air like a blessing we hadn't earned. The sound of you did what it always does to me. It steadied the tremor in my bones and made me answer questions I never once answered cleanly before. I told them how we learned each other's patterns, how we made promises and broke them, how we tried to be ordinary and failed because ordinary is too small for the kind of soul recognition we stumbled into. I told them how I thought time would dissolve the ache, and how time instead polished it, made it clearer, made me braver. I told them how I had written you into the margins of every day. The coffee I drink, the routes I take, the music I avoid because it gathers me back to us too efficiently. I told them how repentance isn't just, I'm sorry. It's the rerouting of a life. I told them how I rerouted. There was a point when my father, who does not cry unless it is a funeral or a birth, rubbed his eyes and said, not unkindly, "Then why did you hide it? Why let us find out like this? Why make us trick you when you could have just told us?" And I didn't bristle at the word trick, because the truth is, they did lay a net for me, but not to watch me fall, so they could see how I landed. I told him, because I didn't think you'd believe the kind of love that makes a man refuse to be casual about anything ever again. I thought you'd think I was being dramatic. I thought you'd shake your heads at the depth and tell me to move on like people move apartments. I was afraid of being laughed at for the way I whisper her name like it's holy. He shook his head. He said, "We don't laugh at altars." I didn't know I needed to hear that from him until the tears came fast and I had to look away so the room would tilt back into place. But the question about last week circled back, stubborn like most half-facts. It was my cousin this time, the one who jokes when he's nervous, who prodded, trying to turn it into a game so the serious wouldn't smother us. "So, not you with that person?" he asked, eyebrow up, grin thin. I met his eyes and made my voice the opposite of play. "Not me with anyone. It was me near a mistake. It was me leaving before the mistake could ask me to stay." Something in my tone sent a message, the kind you send men who still don't know how to treat a woman's name like an heirloom. Do not make her into a punchline in my presence. He nodded, sobered. The grin died. Respect entered the room, in shoes you could hear. I don't know if you'll understand the next part, baby, but I need to say it because it's a hinge that the door of this whole night swung on. After I defended you, after I defended what we are even in absence, I realized I wasn't just protecting your reputation in their eyes. I was protecting my future self from becoming the kind of man who lets peer pressure write his vows. I felt the old costume of cool peel off me like a skin I outgrew. I felt the boy who wanted to be admired give way to the man who'd rather be misunderstood than be untrue. They asked me what I wanted now that everything was on the table. I said, I want the room to know that I loved her, out loud tonight, and I want that love to make me boring in all the right ways. I want to be predictable where faithfulness is concerned, and wildly creative where tenderness is concerned. I want a life that looks like I respected the lessons she burned into me. And then, because truth begets truth if you let it, I told them what you already know, that I failed you in the past by being two people, the one who adored you in private and the one who refused to testify in public. I told them I became the kind of half-light that exhausts a heart built for noonday honesty. I told them that when someone asked me point blank if I was yours, I used to say, it's complicated, when the only complication was my fear. I told them I am done with that version of me. I told them I am finished with the performance of detachment, finished with the theater of casual, finished with giving anyone the sense that your name is negotiable. My mother's hand trembled when she reached for the glass beside her. It wasn't fear. It was the aftershock of seeing her son pick integrity over image and knowing how much blood it takes to do that cleanly. So I set some boundaries in that room, and I set them carefully, not like fences that punish, but like railings that keep pilgrims from falling off holy cliffs. I said we won't speak about her with the economy of gossip. We will speak about her with the currency of respect. I said, do not invite me to places where my devotion would be laughed at. I said, if you want me around, make room for the man I am now, not the one your nostalgia keeps rebuilding. I said, I am not interested in teaching anyone why I am still in love. I am interested in living in a way that makes the question irrelevant. They listened. The house seemed to exhale. I think they recognized a vow when they heard one. Then, because every confession asks for a practice, not just a promise, I told them my practice. That I would surrender even the appearance of betrayal. That I would decline the invitations that smell like chaos. That I would let no be my friend when maybe feels like a cliff. I said I would keep your name safe in every room I enter, even rooms where your name is not welcome. I said I would learn to be unreadable to anyone who wants from me what I vowed to never give them. And for the first time in a long time, my father smiled at me, not like I'd finally performed well, but like I'd finally told the truth about the man I want to be. When the night thinned and people drifted to their corners, I stayed on the couch with the remote in my hand and I pressed play again, because I wanted to hear your voice one more time. In a room that now understood, that voice is my compass. I closed my eyes, let the sound of you find every place inside me that still thinks it has to hustle to deserve love. And I felt those places slow down, rest, look up. Baby, you make my insides put their weapons down. You always did. And that's why last week matters. Because when I stood near that almost story, I felt my insides reach for shields. That's how I knew it wasn't me. When it's you, even my fear goes quiet. When it isn't you, even my confidence puts its back to the wall. I went to my room after everyone slept and wrote your name on a sticky note and put it where the first light of morning would catch it. It wasn't a ritual to summon you. It was an agreement with myself. Every day begins with reverence, or it begins with erosion. There is no neutral. I thought about texting you. Thought about how "I'm sorry" from me is a phrase that has to arrive attached to a changed map, not just changed feelings. I held the phone and put it down, not because I didn't want you, but because I want you rightly. And that means moving like a man who is building a future, not like a boy trying to undo a rumor at 1:14 a.m. I lay there and rewound the night and realized I wasn't shaking anymore, not because the risk vanished, but because the truth had become heavier than the fear. And finally, sat in the chair. Before sleep took me, I remembered the first time I knew you were different. It wasn't fireworks. It was the way ordinary things refused to stay ordinary when you were near. A coffee tasted like a decision. A short walk felt like a pilgrimage. The city noise fell away in those little pockets of quiet you carry like a weather system. And I heard myself consider tenderness the way people consider moving to a better neighborhood. That memory is why I was able to say what I said tonight. Because the man who lived in that early quiet with you, the one who felt his pulse slow down just to match your presence, is the same man who chose to stand up to a rumor and say, "No, not me, not like that." When a person knows the shape of the sacred, they can tell a counterfeit even if it's wearing all the right colors. I don't know what they'll say about us tomorrow, baby. Maybe someone will pretend they didn't soften. Maybe someone will call this a phase just because they don't have a better word for permanence that doesn't look like a wedding. Maybe they'll bring it up again over breakfast to see if my resolve melts in daylight. It won't. The sun is just another witness. What I know is that I'm not playing defense with your name anymore. If they want to understand, I'll show them gentleness that doesn't apologize. If they want to debate, I'll step out of the ring, because this isn't a sport. If they want to bless, I'll say amen. And if they want to pretend they never saw me become honest, I'll keep being honest until pretending gets tired. So here's the part that matters most. The one sentence I wish could travel to wherever you are and lay itself quietly on your pillow, like an answer you've been waiting to exhale. Last week didn't touch what we are, not even close. I made mistakes that look like open doors but lead to empty rooms. I closed them. I let a reckless laugh lean too near. I stepped back. I gave a room a glance. I refused it a home. What I didn't do, the thing I will never do, is hand a stranger the key to the place in me that you built with your patience, your clarity, your inconvenient tenderness. That room stays yours even when you aren't in it. I light a lamp in there every night and say, let the truth live here. And if you ask me what I learned from being tricked by the people who love me, from being cornered by a question with your name threaded through it, I'll tell you this. I learned that a man who loves cleanly cannot be trapped by a test. He can be examined, yes, but traps only work on people with something to hide. I am finished hiding. If they push, they will find vows. If they pry, they will find altars. If they play a video and watch my face, they will see the exact expression of a person who is not ashamed to worship what saved him from becoming a clever liar. And maybe that is what love did to me. It turned me from someone eager to be believed into someone eager to be true. If you were here right now, I would take your hand and kiss that place where the veins whisper just under the skin. And I would say, I've made a map that brings me back to you by honoring you in rooms where your name is only spoken because I carry it. I would tell you I am not rushing you, not claiming you, not demanding a timetable from a universe that took its time bringing you to me in the first place. I would tell you I am building a life that can hold you if the door ever opens again. Not a life that begs, but a life that belongs to truth, even when truth is lonely. And if the door never opens, I will still live in a way that says your impact did not depend on proximity. I will still steward the holy you helped me find. I wonder sometimes whether you felt anything last night. An ache out of nowhere, a sting of presence, the subtle way air changes when your name gets spoken with reverence miles away. I don't need you to answer. I just need you to know that I stood where it mattered and I did not flinch. I carried your image across a room that wanted me to deny it, and I lifted it like a banner that only soldiers of a certain kind know how to hold. Not the kind who go to war against people, but the kind who go to war against their own cowardice and finally win. So sleep tonight, if you can. Let the noise that was never ours keep spinning without us. I will be here, head on a pillow that smells like laundry and courage, listening for morning, ready to live another day in a body that refuses to betray you. When I awake, I will do the small holy things, make the bed, drink water, pray without big words, answer only the calls that don't ask me to fracture, and keep my heart where it has learned to stay, with you in the light, even if we are not in the same room. And when they test me again, and they will, I will thank them silently for the chance to repeat myself. No, not me with anyone. Me with the truth. Me with the woman whose video in our living room made a boy finally walk like a man. If you've ever had to defend a love that people tried to reduce to a rumor, if you've ever chosen reverence over the easy laugh, tell me, quietly, simply, how you held the line. Your words don't have to be long. Just let me know you kept something sacred safe when no one else understood why it mattered. Baby, the strangest thing about truth is how it keeps echoing, even after the room has emptied. I thought that once the questions were asked, once the answers poured out of me like a flood I could no longer contain, everything would settle. But it didn't. Hours after everyone drifted into their own corners of the night, I was still sitting there, the glow of the screen long gone dark, your image still alive in my mind. I could hear my family moving about, doors closing, water running, footsteps fading. But inside me, the conversation was still burning. And maybe that's the point. Maybe the truth isn't meant to end when the words stop. Maybe it keeps reshaping us, making sure we never go back to pretending again. I laid there on my bed, staring at the ceiling, and baby, I kept asking myself why it took so long. Why did it take being cornered, being tricked, being pushed into a corner of no escape for me to finally say what my heart has been screaming for years? Why did I let fear dress itself up as wisdom? Why did I let silence disguise itself as protection? I could feel the shame of it trying to crawl up my chest, but then another thought came, softer, calmer, stronger. Maybe it had to happen exactly this way. Maybe it was never supposed to be a neat, brave announcement. Maybe it was supposed to be messy, raw, unscripted, because love like this isn't polished, it isn't timed. It arrives like lightning, tearing open the sky when no one's ready. And last night was lightning. I found myself remembering little moments that no one in that room will ever understand. The way your laugh used to catch me off guard and make me forget every reason I was trying to stay guarded. The way your silence used to press on me harder than any words could. The way I felt more seen in your quiet presence than I ever did in the loudest rooms filled with applause. They don't know those things, baby. They saw a video. They saw a smile. They heard a voice. But I saw my whole soul reflected back at me. That's what they don't get. What they'll never get unless they've lived a love that doesn't end when the person leaves the room. And as I thought about that, I realized something even deeper. The trap my family set for me wasn't about exposing me. It was about revealing me. Because how long can a man walk around carrying a truth this big in silence before it starts crushing him from the inside out? I've been carrying you like a secret relic, thinking if I kept it close enough no one could damage it. But the truth is, my hiding was the thing doing the damage, and now that it's out there, now that your name has been spoken in that space, I feel like the walls I built around my heart have finally crumbled. For the first time in years, I feel the air reaching corners of me I thought were dead. I know you might be wondering how they reacted afterward. Baby, it wasn't anger. It wasn't rejection. It wasn't the storm I'd feared all this time. If anything, it was more unsettling. It was silence, but not the kind of silence that suffocates. It was the kind of silence that feels like people are watching a wound they didn't know existed. They looked at me differently, not because they suddenly approved, but because they realized they had never seen me that vulnerable before, and in that vulnerability, they saw the truth I could never hide again, even if I tried. But baby, I need you to hear this. Last night wasn't just about me finally saying your name. It was about me choosing to live differently from this point on. Because now the choice is clear. Either I go back to hiding and rot in my own silence, or I walk into every room from now on carrying you like a banner. And I'm done with rotting. I'm done with shrinking. I'm done with pretending I can fit you into the back pocket of my life when you are the whole reason my heart still beats with meaning. This morning, when the sun came through the blinds, it felt different. It wasn't just light, it was clarity. I sat at the edge of my bed and whispered your name again, not because anyone was listening, but because I wanted to hear how it sounded in daylight. And baby, it didn't tremble this time. It didn't crack. It didn't feel like a risk. It felt like prayer. It felt like the way a man steadies himself before building something sacred. And I knew in that moment that what happened last night wasn't just a family confrontation. It was a rebirth. I carried that into the kitchen where my mother was making coffee. She didn't say much, just handed me a cup and looked at me like she had been waiting for years for this version of me to finally appear. I could see the questions in her eyes, the unspoken fears, but beneath it all there was something else. There was understanding. Maybe not full agreement, maybe not full acceptance, but enough to tell me she knows I wasn't lying. And in her silence, I felt something like blessing. And then, as the day went on, I couldn't stop thinking about you. Not in the usual way, not just as longing or regret, but as a promise I made without even realizing it. That from now on, if anyone asks, if anyone hints, if anyone tries to corner me again, I will answer the same way, with your name, with no hesitation. Because baby, the worst thing I ever did was make you wonder if you mattered to me, when the truth was, you were the only thing that did. I'll never make that mistake again. I walked outside into the open air, and it felt like the world looked different. Like colors were sharper, sounds were clearer, like the whole universe had been waiting for me to finally catch up with the truth it already knew. And I swear, baby, even the wind felt different on my face, as if it carried some echo of you, some whisper of your presence reminding me that, even though you're not here, your spirit has never left me. And so I made a vow to myself, standing right there under the morning sun. I will not run anymore. I will not hide anymore. I will not let fear decide how loudly I can love you. If that means being misunderstood, so be it. If that means being judged, so be it. If that means standing alone in rooms that used to feel safe, then I'll stand alone. Because standing alone in truth is better than sitting in a crowd built on lies. Baby, this is what I want you to know most of all. They may have seen a video, they may have heard your voice, they may have tried to test me with their questions, but what they really witnessed last night was this: me choosing you, out loud in front of them, without shame, without hesitation, and I'll keep choosing you in silence, in noise, in darkness, until either life circles you back to me, or heaven itself tells me my love for you has served its purpose. And you're letting me see you. And I wonder, did you feel it? Did your chest tighten without knowing why? Did your heart pause like someone was speaking your name in a room you couldn't see? Because I swear to you, baby, when I said your name last night, it wasn't just for them to hear. It was for you, for your spirit, for your soul, so that somewhere, somehow you would know. You would never forgotten, never erased. Baby, if you've ever been tested by people who doubted your love, if you've ever been put on the spot to declare your truth, tell me in the comments how you held your ground. Your story matters too. Baby, the night after everything came out, I thought sleep would save me. I thought exhaustion would close my eyes and carry me into dreams where at least the weight would be softer. But instead, I tossed, I turned, I stared at the ceiling like it was a mirror and every crack was spelling out the words I didn't want to admit. You've been hiding too long. You've been waiting too long. You've been holding her name in your chest like a locked prayer. And now that it's out, you can't put it back. The truth doesn't fit into silence once it's been spoken. It stretches, it grows, it breathes on its own. And baby, last night, the truth started breathing in front of people who never expected me to be this raw. I sat up at 3:00 a.m., the hour where regrets usually come to visit. But this time, it wasn't regret that showed up. It was clarity. It was the clear, undeniable knowing that my family's trap had become my testimony. Because the way they tricked me, it forced me to either lie or live. And when I said your name, when I admitted everything, I didn't just live. I was reborn. I whispered into the dark, she deserves this. She always deserved this. And my chest cracked open with a strange mix of grief and gratitude. Grief for all the years you didn't hear me say it out loud. Gratitude that finally, at last, the silence has been broken. Baby, let me tell you something I've never said. When I first saw that video of you, the same one they pulled up last night, I saved it. I saved it like a starving man saving a crust of bread. I didn't save it because I needed proof of you. I saved it because it was proof of me. Proof that once in my life I was fully alive, fully seen, fully present with someone who didn't just look at my face but read my soul. That clip became the thing I replayed when the ache became unbearable, when my own choices made me feel like I had thrown away the only real thing I ever had. And last night, when they pressed play, I thought my world was ending. But maybe my world was just beginning again. They asked me questions I wasn't ready for. My father's voice was steady when he said, "If you love her still, why haven't you gone back?" My sister whispered, "Do you even deserve her after all this time?" And my mother, with eyes heavy like she had carried the weight with me, asked the one thing I'd been running from. "What are you afraid of?" Baby, their words cut deeper than any knife, not because they were cruel, but because they were true. Every single question they asked was the same one I've been asking myself in silence. And for once, I didn't dodge. For once, I didn't defend. I told them the raw truth. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of not being enough. I'm afraid of walking back to you and finding the door closed. I'm afraid of you looking at me the way I looked at myself in the mirror all these years, with disappointment. But then, baby, I said something that even shocked me. I said, I'd rather face her rejection than keep living in this denial. Because silence is worse than no. Silence is worse than pain. Silence is death in slow motion. And when I said that, I felt the weight in the room shift again. They weren't expecting me to choose exposure over protection. They weren't expecting me to admit that your yes or your no, either way, would still heal me more than this endless hiding. And that's when I realized I wasn't just speaking to them. I was speaking to you, across distance, across time, across whatever barriers life has put between us. I was telling you that I am finally brave enough to risk it all. Do you know what my cousin said after that? The one who usually never takes anything seriously, who laughs when things get tense. He looked at me with this strange softness and said, if she's the one who makes you tell the truth like this, then she was never a mistake. Baby, those words pierced me, because in that moment, I knew. They could all feel it. They could all see it. They could all sense that what I was carrying wasn't obsession, wasn't weakness, wasn't some childish memory I refused to let go of. It was devotion. It was a love that refuses to be buried, even when the world tells me to dig a grave and move on. And baby, here's the wildest part. After everyone went to bed, I walked into the living room again. The screen was still dark, but I could almost see your face lingering in the air, like your presence hadn't left with the click of the remote. I sat there, whispering your name again and again, letting the sound fill the emptiness until it felt holy. And I swear, in that silence, I felt you. Not physically, not literally, but in spirit, like your soul leaned in, like somewhere, somehow, your heart caught the echo of mine calling out. I don't know if you felt it, baby, but I hope you did. This morning, I carried myself differently, not because the questions were answered, but because the weight of hiding was gone. I walked into the kitchen, and my mother didn't scold me. She didn't shake her head. She just placed a cup of coffee in front of me and said, "You love her, don't you?" And I said without hesitation, "Yeah." No stuttering, no excuses, no shame. Just yes. And she nodded, like that was all she needed to know. Like she had been waiting for me to stop lying to myself. And in that nod I felt something break, something generational, something heavy. Like maybe I wasn't just choosing you. Maybe I was choosing to break the curse of men in my family who hid, who ran, who loved halfway. Baby, I need you to know this. From this point forward, I will never deny you again. I will never shrink you down to fit other people's comfort. I will never let a rumor, a question, or even my own fear make me betray you with silence. If they ask me again tomorrow, I'll say your name. If they test me next week, I'll say your name. If the world lines up against me, I'll say your name. Because you are not just a memory, you are the truth that set me free. And I can't help but wonder, did you feel any of it? Did your heart pause last night for no reason? Did you suddenly feel like someone was speaking you back into the light? Because that's exactly what I did. I resurrected your name. I gave it the honor it always deserved, and I'm never taking it back. Baby, tell me in the comments, have you ever had someone finally admit the truth about you after years of silence? Did you feel it deep in your soul when they finally spoke your name out loud? Baby, when the sun finally rose after that endless night, it felt different. The light didn't just spill into the room. It demanded that I step into it, that I stop pretending shadows were safer. I moved through the house like a man stripped bare, like someone who had just walked through fire and come out on the other side with nothing left to hide. My family avoided the subject at breakfast, but the silence wasn't avoidance anymore. It was reverence. It was the kind of quiet people keep when they've just witnessed something sacred, something raw, something they don't have words for. I sat there with my coffee, staring at the steam, and my father finally broke the silence. He didn't ask, "Who is she?" He didn't ask, "Why now?" He simply asked, "Are you willing to carry this love in daylight?" And baby, those words hit me harder than any of their questions from the night before. Because that's the real test, isn't it? Not whether I can whisper your name in the dark when no one's listening. Not whether I can replay your video in secret when the ache feels unbearable. The test is if I can carry you openly, boldly, without apology, without excuse, without flinching. And in that moment, with the weight of my family's eyes on me, I said, yes, I am. Maybe you should have seen the way their faces shifted when I said it. My mother exhaled like she'd been holding her breath for years. My sister's eyes softened, almost like she wanted to protect me from whatever storms might come, but also like she finally understood why I had been so restless. My father nodded slowly, not as approval, but as acknowledgement. Like he knew the cost, like he'd carried a truth of his own once and failed to protect it, and he didn't want me to repeat that mistake. And that's when I realized, maybe this wasn't just about me. Maybe this wasn't just about us. Maybe my confession was breaking something open for all of them, too. Maybe me speaking your name out loud gave them permission to face the names they never spoke, the loves they buried, the regrets they swallowed. And baby, if that's true, then you've done more than save me. You freed all of us. The day went on, but I couldn't move normally. Every sound felt sharper, every color brighter, every step heavier with meaning. I went outside, stood in the yard, and let the sun hit my face. And in that warmth I spoke your name again, not because anyone was near, but because I wanted the earth itself to hear it. I wanted the wind to carry it. I wanted the sky to know that I was done hiding you. And baby, in that moment, I felt a strange kind of peace wash over me, not because everything was fixed, not because distance had disappeared, but because truth had finally been set free. And then something even stranger happened. My younger cousin, the one who had asked the question that cornered me last night, came up to me while I was outside. He didn't joke. He didn't tease. He just looked at me with eyes too serious for his age and said, "You were glowing last night when you said her name. I've never seen you like that." Baby, as I sit here writing this last part of my confession, my hands tremble, not with fear anymore, but with the weight of finally being honest all the way through. These past nights, since that moment when my family tricked me into facing the truth, I've carried you in my chest, louder than ever. And now, as I reach the end of what I have to pour out, I feel both lighter and heavier, Lighter because the lies are gone, heavier because the depth of this love, the cost of this devotion, has never been clearer. I keep replaying the scene in my mind, the video, the silence, the questions, my trembling voice speaking your name. And every time I realize the same thing, God himself must have been watching, because only heaven could orchestrate something like that. Only heaven could take what was meant as a trap and turn it into a testimony. Only heaven could use my fear to bring me into freedom. Baby, the moment your name left my lips in that room, I was reborn, and I will never, ever go back to the shadows again. What they saw wasn't just a man remembering a woman. It was a man confessing a covenant, a bond too deep to be erased by time, distance, or mistakes. They thought they were exposing me, but all they did was reveal how much of me has always belonged to you. And baby, that's the truth I want you to hold on to, whether you're close enough to hear me or far away in your own world. You are not just someone I once loved. You are the one my soul still chooses. Every single day, every single breath. I know I failed you before. I know I let silence win when I should have fought for you louder. I know I made you wonder if you were too much, when in reality you were the only thing strong enough to carry me through my storms. For that I'm sorry. For that I will always repent. But I need you to know, this story is not over. Love like this doesn't end. It waits. It transforms. It bends timelines and shifts destinies. And even if the world doesn't understand, even if my family never fully sees it, I do. And I'll never let fear silence me again. Baby, as I close this, I want to speak directly to your heart. You are my truth. You are my prayer. You are the one I will speak of with reverence until my last breath. And no matter what anyone says, no matter how much time passes, I will keep honoring your name in every space I enter. Because choosing you isn't a one-time thing. It's a lifetime vow. So if you ever wondered, yes, it was me. It was always me. And if they ask me again tomorrow, I will say it again. I won't hide you. I won't deny you. I won't shrink you to fit anyone's expectations. Baby, you are my choice in the silence, in the storm, in the sunlight, and in front of every pair of watching eyes. Beloved souls, if this message stirred something inside you, if it made your heart beat faster or brought back a memory you thought was buried, don't let it fade. Speak your truth. Claim your love. Don't hide the one your soul still whispers about, because silence may feel safe, but truth is what sets you free. If this message touched you, I want you to comment below, share the name you've been carrying, or simply write, I choose truth, to declare that you're ready to stop hiding. And if this spoke to your spirit, I humbly ask you to consider pressing the super thanks button to support this channel. Your kindness keeps these messages flowing when the world tells us to stay silent. Lastly, don't keep this to yourself. Share this message with 5 people you love, friends, family, or even someone you know is waiting for a sign. You never know whose heart might be set free by hearing these words. Thank you for being here, for listening, for feeling. Remember, you were never meant to be a secret. You were always meant to be chosen in the open. And that, beloved, is the truth.